and welcome back to the Celebrating Singles podcast. I am your host, Christy, and today we have such a special treat in my friend Hannah. Welcome, Hannah.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I am very excited for this conversation today. Hannah and I met just a few months ago, actually. We are both happen to be in Kona, Hawaii, but you're not from here, Hannah. Where are you originally from?
I am originally from Germany, but I did spend some time in the UK and in Sweden and now in the US. So very happy to have met you here in Kona, out of all places.
I know, quite random. Which also we have a background in technology. So Hannah also came from, just working in the tech industry. Do you want to share a little bit about you, or just give our audience a little bit of an intro?
Yes, my pleasure. So I did a master in communications, and with that, you can do anything and nothing, right? You can just like go in any field. And I felt drawn into organizations to work in internal communication and employer branding. So I spent most of my career so far in startups, but also in scale ups, working on different transformation projects and in the mobility space, but also education tech. And yeah, very exciting times to just be part of those companies that do really want to revolutionize a lot of the way we're living nowadays.
So cool. I love it. We definitely share that in common. I love just the work that you've done so far, and how amazing that you've gotten to do it in so many different countries already. And tell me a little bit more about that. Obviously, you've had the freedom to be able to, have that freedom in decision making, but that's a huge piece of, singleness, is that decision
Yeah.
making and navigating really, really big life decisions, like making the move from Europe to come all the way to Hawaii. Walk me through, what
Yeah.
does that look like throughout the years, or can you walk us through a little bit about that?
Yes. Yeah. I think decision making, whether you do it as a single or someone that's in a partnership, decisions very often should not be taken just by yourself. But as a single person, I am so lucky to have really a good set of friends and of family members, my mom in particular, my sisters, that were really good sounding boards for decisions that I took. Because on one hand, I do feel like, oh, there's such a freedom. I'm single. I can basically move wherever I want, do whatever I want. But people do know you really well. They know your blind spots, your close friends, your family, maybe even work colleagues. So I always had really seen the importance and the emphasis in my life to just look at like, okay, who can people be on my sounding board of my life, and that I really want to invite to just give me advice. And some people might say, hey, I think that step to move abroad is for this and that reason really smart for you. And then others might have some concerns. And in the end, of course, as a single person, you carry the decision, which is also really like a beautiful thing, because you're the one that kind of makes a decision and has the responsibility and the ownership. And so I don't want to say that people took decisions for me, but I just love the process where you're like, okay, people know me also, and they can also confirm it. And funny story was, I had a birthday party, and I just shared with two very old friends and acquaintances that I hadn't seen in a while that I would be moving. And when I shared that story, those two women were instantly saying like, Hannah, it totally makes sense. That's just so you. And for me, that was also so beautiful to see, I have people that really know me and I've walked my life with, and they now can really see the common patterns in my life and just affirming that. So I just feel like more strengthened in my decision that I took.
I love that so much. And oh my gosh, and I love it, especially in a big move. I also had that happen to me once when I moved from Austin, Texas to San Francisco. And it was a huge decision, and it was for a new job. And I had a good girlfriend at the time. Just like when I told her, I was kind of hesitant, and I had already made the decision, but I was still kind of like, am I making the right call? It is a little bit nerve wracking.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, Chrissy, you're gonna run it. Like, this is so, like, you're so San Francisco." And now, like, having lived in San Francisco, I actually really enjoyed, and I was totally
So,
like meant for San
yeah.
Francisco. So, but she really like called that out in me, and so I totally love
Um,
that. Almost like as you were talking, I was thinking like a personal board of directors, right?
yes.
Where
Yes.
it's like this advisory
Absolutely.
committee.
And at the same time, oh, sorry.
Go for
At,
it.
at the same time, also, um, being aware that certain decisions, the freedom that you have as a single person, might really trigger or affect other people around you, because and they might take offense in it, or they might be a little bit like, oh, how can you come do all these fun things, and they have a different path right now, a different kind of journey. They said yes to other things, and so it's sometimes hard then to navigate that people are really just cheering you on. So to kind of really be aware who you share with, and if they can be good counselors in such situations.
Oh, Hannah, I can so relate
Mhm.
to that. I definitely have had some hard conversations with some friends that I loved how you said it there. They said yes to other things, namely marriage and kids. And,
Yeah.
I just have not found my person yet. And so I definitely agree that who you let in and kind of where their heart is at, right? Because you can have married friends that are also in the throes of, newborn and toddler stage and they can't get on a plane and go, but they're really excited for me because their heart is in a good place and they can see that there's a lot of joy in their current season, even though it's very different from singleness. So it really does
Mhm.
help to make sure that you have healthy, emotionally healthy people around you that are speaking into those decisions. I love that.
Mhm.
So cool.
So true.
Okay, let's move to the next topic, which is kind of like you kind of already alluded to this, but just really like I would say like the social pressure, right, of being single is so interesting. And I'm curious, obviously, what it's like coming from Europe, if you would say it's pretty similar, but so many people have different experiences with just the social pressure that comes along with yeah, with singleness, right? And people's opinions. And really unhelpful opinions, I would say, in some cases. So, can you talk towards that? I don't, has that been a part of your journey? It sounds like a little bit, maybe.
Yes and no, I would say. So I've been quite fortunate that I think because I was always very go-getter and active and just like living like in different parts of the world and just always onto the next adventure, that people did not really feel like to ask maybe, oh, and where's that kind of life partner, or are you dating, or anybody interesting in your world? And so I think that was a bit dialed down. But at the same time, what I thought really hit me sometimes was this comments like, oh, but you're so pretty, and why don't you have somebody, but you're so nice. And that on the one hand being reduced just to my looks, and then also to just like, well, there must be something else wrong with you if you're not able to find somebody. So I think these things just they sometimes throw you off. But what I had learned, like when my younger sister got married, I actually before the wedding, because I was the one that was the host for the night and as a bridesmaid, and very close part of the whole wedding, and my beloved sister. So I really sat myself down and just like thought of questions that people might ask me, and that might come off as really just kind of trying to, that would really sting, and
Mhm.
wrote down like, okay, how will I respond and what will I say, so that I can just dance the night away and I can enjoy the party and just be there for my sister, but do not feel like people are saying something to me, even if it's just a small comment. So that helped me. And funny enough, at that wedding, zero people approached me about my own kind of status. So I had done all this preparation of just like mentally preparing myself for some random person coming to me and asking about my love life. But then nobody came, and I was like, well, that was good. And I just felt really just at peace to celebrate my sister. And I had not the feeling that the spotlight is on me, or that I'm being singled out in any way.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, what a pro tip. Like I love this. This is actually something we talk about in our course of just like basically preparing for those conversations and having a response can be so helpful
Yeah.
when you get kind of caught off guard in a situation, whether it be at a family
Yeah.
event or something like that, where just having
Mhm.
processed some of those questions beforehand really helps like lower, like you don't get
Yeah.
triggered. It's like, okay, these people just really don't know what else to ask you about. You know, like, the great aunt that you
Yeah.
haven't seen in a while, or a childhood, neighbor or something like that. So
They don't care. They're just like, oh man, this is small talk, but they don't know that is might be like a just some kind of like a topic for yourself that you're battling with, or you just feel like exposed. And yeah.
right, right. Well, and then people just say like kind of the dumbest things. Sometimes I'm like, oh no, they did not think that through. They didn't mean that either.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, I've had some very interesting ones. Like the worst one probably was like, oh my gosh, like, don't you want your own kids? Like, why haven't you settled down yet? And I'm just like, that's really
Yeah.
unhelpful. Like, yeah, actually, I do want my own kids. But do you want to talk about the last 10 dates I've been on? I don't want kids with any of those people. So let me just say that. So, anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say people are really bad at small talk. So the more you can kind of help steer the
Mhm.
conversation, that small talk in the right
Yeah.
direction is usually pretty helpful.
Absolutely. But then also looking at ourselves, like how do I steward conversations with people, like when they're, this classic like joke, like, oh, once you're in a relationship then everybody asks you when are you getting married, and then when you are having the first baby, and all of these kind of like life stages. So but also catching myself there doing the same thing to my married friends, maybe like, oh, you have one baby, when do you want another one or something. And the same with jobs, like really putting people not in these kind of boxes of what they might be just filling and describing, but just like I think just learning to ask different questions that are just really leading to a fun and interesting conversation, and not just like about like achievements in life.
Yes. No, I totally agree. That's really good. And I've definitely also caught myself with those questions, and then realized, wait a minute, I want to be a better friend. Like I want to be able to ask about different things. Or sometimes literally if I totally blank, I will literally just say, what's something I should know about you? Or what's something new that like maybe wouldn't normally come up in this conversation? And so having sometimes,
Yeah.
those go-to questions is helpful in the moment because it gets
Yeah.
awkward. I don't really know anyone who's like really awesome at small talk, or anyone that really
Yeah.
can enjoy it. And so finding those questions that can kind of steer into, a better, enjoyable conversation for everyone can be helpful. So
Mm.
good.
Yeah,
So
so
good.
good.
Okay, let's shift gears just a little bit. I want to take us down a road where I feel like, yeah, I just think knowing you and knowing kind of like where you're at in life, loneliness can be such a big emotion and big feeling for singles. And a
Yeah.
lot of people, at least a lot of our listeners, talk towards just like not being able to overcome this, and this being like one of the reasons why they're so desperate and swiping away to get out of this
Mm.
loneliness trap. And we've talked a lot about just ways, I would say, of what that's looked like for everyone. And I just always love to hear what this has been like for you, maybe some ways you've learned to
Mm.
overcome it, or what are your thoughts about loneliness?
Yeah, yeah, so good. I do think like what has helped me is kind of putting things into perspective. And with loneliness, I feel like it can come in waves. And sometimes I know, okay, then it's just like a wave that hits you, and you feel like, okay, now I'm really feeling it, and it feels everything is just saturated in that emotion. And then there are weeks where I'm like, okay, like life couldn't be any better, and I'm not feeling it at all. And I do think also it's important to just not fill our lives with busyness, and really do acknowledge when there is loneliness, and to say, okay, I'm actually like voicing that, and I'm saying that is loneliness. I don't have to sugarcoat it. I don't have to maybe just go to friends and just, or like you said, like start really desperately swiping, but to really be like, okay, and what is this emotion? It is actually loneliness. And I mean, the crazy thing is like when you write things down, like an emotion, and you journal that, or just like voice it what it is, then your brain moves into solution solving mode, or like problem solving mode. And that has helped me many times to just be like, okay, I feel lonely right now. Okay, do I need to take a bath, like just to physically feel like, okay, I'm holding this space for myself, or just like self-care? Or does it actually look like I want to meet a friend, I just need a good hug, or just need to cry, and just like write it down, and just looking at like what are simple things. And many times I would also say, just saying like, okay, I just today I feel it, but I will know that tomorrow with a good night's sleep it might be better. And it sounds like so basic, but for me personally that has helped a lot. And knowing also that loneliness is not just something that like if you have trouble sitting with yourself and being comfortable with your own self, how will it be when you are then actually in a relationship? Because loneliness can also be felt in a relationship, so the grass is not ultimately greener on the other side. So I think it's at the same time very real as single people that we can experience loneliness. And for me, one of the things, it's maybe not loneliness, but just this sense that something is missing, is like at parties when I see people being asked by their partners, like, hey, do you want another drink? Or can I get you something? And this feeling of that nobody's there to just like, see me and just be my, that we belong together, that kind of like belonging. But at the same time, really being like, okay, I want to be somebody that creates a place of belonging for others. And I'm not going to wait in my house until somebody knocks on my door, but I want to create rooms and space for other people to be seen and to feel loved. And yeah, I don't want to just mull and sit in my own emotions, but rather say, hey, if I feel that way as a single person, there must be so many more people that feel the same. And why not come together and also tell my friends that are married or friends that are engaged or other singles, like, hey, I'm really battling with this. Like, can you come over, or can you just like give me a hug, or just can we just like hang out?
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
good. I know having that support system of for not just like decision making, but really just, healthy relationships, right? I guess can you talk
Yeah.
towards that at all? It sounds like you've had like some really good support systems around you. What does that look like for you? And
Mhm.
do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. Of course. One other thing that I just thought of is actually like they say that loneliness is more deadly long term than cigarettes, which is kind of crazy. So like if you're experiencing it, I mean, it's not to put ourselves down, but to say like, hey, it is something actual that will affect us. So don't downplay it. If you're feeling lonely, don't just sit with it and say, well, it will, it's just something I have to deal with. But it's kind of almost as if you're smoking a lot of cigarettes. In yeah, and it will affect your health.
There's actually research that just came out from the Surgeon General, and it said that loneliness actually can have the impact of up to 15 cigarettes per day. So it's not just
Wow,
like, oh,
that's
I
crazy.
smoke, it's like 15 cigarettes a day. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I think you're really, really
Wow.
good to say, hey, don't just skip over this. If this is something that's a regular emotion for you, like lean into some
Yeah. Yeah.
solutions. And it sounds like you're going to give us some good ones as far as like a support system. So yeah, feel free to hop in there.
Yeah, so I would say it's always healthy to have people that are in the same situation as you are. So I love my single girlfriends or my single friends that just know, they just feel it. I can just throw them a glance and just know, okay, they feel how I'm feeling. That's just there's a lot of power in this, like knowing somebody knows how it is to walk in your shoes. And at the same time, I also really in love just being like in diverse friendship circles and the same with like having a partner. That person will not fulfill all of your needs at some point. Yes, sure, they will be your significant partner and they will fulfill a lot of things, but you still will need your friends. You still need somebody. Maybe they don't like the TV show that you're watching. Maybe they don't like the exercise that you love doing. So don't wait until that person shows up. And if they show up, So I would say like having diverse friends and just feeling like, okay, you can actually show different sides of your personality with them. And I am somebody, I love also different ages. I love people that are younger than me, older than me. And I think there's so many ways to just connect and over hobbies or over maybe a shared faith or over like a workplace. And what I think is also helpful to look at, like, okay, who are people that I have just like an eye level relationship, and who are people that I can pour into, like maybe friends that I know they need me, and who are the people that pour into me, like a coach or having someone like a mentor, and just know like, okay, I'm growing. I'm not just staying the same, but I'm also giving back and I'm investing, but I'm also doing personal growth, and I'm not just like twitching my fingers at home and waiting for some life change to happen.
So good. Yes. No, I love
Mhm.
that. I love all of that. I think especially what hit me was like having healthy friendships with like your friends that are couples, whether being married
Yeah.
or dating. I'll never forget a really powerful moment actually in my early 20s. I knew I was totally failing budget wise. Like I was making a decent amount of money pretty young, but I was not saving the amount I knew I needed to be, and even had some debt, like coming out of student loan debt. And so I was, I think, I don't know, probably complaining to a girlfriend, and she was like, "Oh, thank God, my husband took care of all of that for me." And that can be a moment where you can take on the, oh, woe is me. I don't have a husband to just take care of all my problems or handle my budget and tell me what I can and cannot spend. And instead, this moment happened where she was like, hey, I bet he could help you too. And so then we went out to dinner, and he like showed me what he does, showed me his tools, and he was like, hey, why don't we just like go through this over the next few months? Like I can help hold you to, you're not going to hit your budget your first month. He like totally broke down, the like stigma of like, oh, if I do this, I got to get it right and perfect. And he's like, no, you probably won't for the first few months. And that's normal. And he just like totally demystified a budget, finances, broke off all the shame that I was like, wait, I don't know how to do this. I actually haven't done this. My parents weren't intentional about this, growing up. Like I had no exposure to it. So but it was so cool because instead of that moment being like, I don't have a husband to do this for me, she just lended me her husband for it. And that was really helpful.
So
So I'm
good. Yeah.
grateful.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm curious, has there been anything else that you feel like has been kind of a big part of this journey for you, good or bad, everything in between? Any advice that you'd like to give to someone who's maybe not necessarily in the place they want to be as a single?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so easy to really wait for someone, prince on a white horse, because that's what Hollywood tells us, right? And just to really like wait and wait and just not live life. And just I think that was a big part for me of moving and coming to the US, was that I was actually living back home, and I felt like, okay, my life is so like, it's everything is set up, like my apartment, my income, my work, all the things, like I'm just pretty much living what you're expected to do in your 30s. But I just felt like after a season, like I do feel like there's so much more, and why am I living a life as if I have lots of commitments to keep here? And then realizing, well, actually I'm pretty free. And that I think is just a huge power to leverage your singleness and say, like, what are other things that I can just double down on, that I can just like pursue, not because I'm waiting and because it's like it's kind of a curse, like you have to wait, and it's just not possible to move forward, but actually say, wow, I'm filling this life with a lot of great things. And yeah, just going after things that you could not go after maybe in another season. So I would say definitely like a change of perspective is one of the healthiest things you can do. If you look at different areas of your life and you're saying, like, maybe, okay, I've never been to this, like my friend and I, she always had this one location that was kind of a honeymoon destination. And then I was thinking about traveling there, and she was like conflicted, should she come with or not, because that was supposed to be the location where she would want to go on a honeymoon. And at some point she said, you know what, Hannah, like, you are real, you're my friend, you're here right now, I'm going to go with you on this trip, and I'm not going to wait until like the honeymoon, and then the honeymoon might come and it will be a different location. But not waiting and putting things we sometimes say, you buy these candles and you never light them because they're too pretty, but like really looking at your life, like, okay, how can I live that I'm gonna be so proud and happy that I lived it to the fullest and didn't wait for somebody to come along. And we're not guaranteed that somebody comes along, so just to be free and say, I'm gonna pursue life to the fullest right now.
I love it. Wait, this is so good. And I mean, how many people delay those, whether it be a trip or buying the house or,
Yeah.
selling everything and moving across an ocean, different things like that. That was probably one of the bigger moments for me is when I moved from Austin to San Francisco. I had built a really amazing community of friends. Shout out to all my Austin friends. They're incredible. And I really was like, oh my gosh, I am starting over. Like I'm starting over. And I had this moment, it hit me. I was like, I'm probably delaying getting married now, right? Because it's just going to take time to kind of rebuild that community and all this stuff, which is honestly like, yeah, that might be partially true. But also, I am now entering into a brand new city. Oh, by the way, with a bunch more people that were single later in life,
Yeah.
amazing people that I would say are
Mhm.
we're just way more aligned to what I want to do in my life, the purpose I feel like is on my life. And I am so thankful that I did not like forego that move because I thought, oh, and it's really a scarcity mindset. It's like, it's a total scarcity mindset. It's like, well, wait a minute. No, I can meet. And we all have those stories too, right? Our friends all of a sudden go on one ski trip,
Yeah.
come back with like literally
Yeah.
and they'll say like I think I met my husband, and sure enough like a few months later, boom, like ring on the finger, they're going for it,
Yeah.
and you're like, that's amazing, right? It's like one ski trip invite away from meeting the person. And so I definitely think getting out of that scarcity mindset of or that just like that delay, that in your mind, and really at the end of the day it's vain imagination. It's like, oh, I had always
Yeah.
dreamed that one day I would buy the house with a husband. And it's like, okay, well, what's better than that? What's even better? Because right
Yeah.
now, here's my current situation. And so I think we have to like get out of
Mm.
that vain imagination a little bit too,
Yeah.
of like what we thought it would look like.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And the expectations that we carry, like you said, with like, okay, like certain life stages that we wanted to hit, or my friend with that location she had thought for a honeymoon, or like, oh, I've always pictured myself, I'm having kids young or being married young. That's what a lot of people say. But then like life plays out differently, and just being like, well, okay, but then I couldn't have had all of these experiences that I'm having right now. And I think just being like aware, okay, it's just something that it's just beautiful to just like look at life as it is and not judge it if it's better or worse, but like, okay, let's just like live the life that is in front of me. And yeah, so I think it's so much about expectations, and it could just take you down like so much joy, or so much like the energy in life when you it's so reduced, when you're not looking at like, okay, what is actually like the resources I have right now and that are available to me. Yeah, another thing that I wanted to say is like being bold in your dating, and just not, you know, same with expectations. And I think this is also something that people always say, like, don't always date the person that you had kind of thought of, but like be open to other people and look for like one thing that I have learned from me in dating is a lot, or getting to know somebody, how do I behave around this person, and do I like myself how I am with them. And I have some friends that are where people were like, oh, this person would be perfect for you, and then I realized, okay, they're just basing that on very like external factors, but I
Mm,
don't like myself the way I am with them, because I need to be then the responsible one, or I would need to have to be
mm,
in a certain way, not necessarily saying that they wouldn't be great, they're great people, but just like, just also realizing that sometimes people want to wish something for you in such a easy solution, but then you also have to say, actually, yeah, there's something else that I'm kind of looking for that would be better for me, and I'm not gonna, just kind of compromise on certain things.
so good. So
Yeah.
good. Yeah, no, I like that a lot too. Yeah, I agree with you on that the person that I think I
Mhm.
want, to be honest, like I don't actually know if that is who I need or that's who would be best for me. And so I would say I've definitely changed a lot of what I think and really kind of thrown, not like obviously there are certain things and certain values that I have that are totally, non-negotiables, but I would say what used to be on the non-negotiable list has definitely shifted a lot. And I'm grateful
So
for that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know who I would have chosen even 5 years ago. Um, but I'm really
Mm.
grateful that, I'm a completely different person than I was in my 20s. And so I'm really grateful that I now get to choose from this place in this baseline.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so good,
Okay. I have
so good.
a very random question for you, and this is going to totally catch you off guard. But I'm curious, do you feel like you made any mistakes along the journey that if you could like go back and like talk to 21-year-old Hannah, like any advice you would give to like your younger self or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say I was pretty cautious. So I would just say, like what I said earlier, like be bold, have more fun. Not saying like in kind of breaking people's hearts or just like being reckless, but like, like just go on dates, just explore like people around you, get to know them. Don't take yourself too seriously, and just like enjoy building friendships and just seeing how they kind of develop. So I would say that. One thing that I did struggle with also the recent years was like in dating, understanding what part of me is maybe saying no to somebody because I'm a grown up woman and I have certain things, and what are things that just have kind of like built up through the years, or maybe childhood topics or trauma, or kind of like different attachment styles, and just looking at like, okay, what of that is like, how do I take decisions, and then sometimes waiting a little bit too long in actually letting things go. And I would also say, so third one, I have a lot of lessons to my younger self. I think with one of my ex-boyfriends, I was really hung up on them, and I would just really like look constantly still like at their social media. And at some point I realized, okay, they're not anymore part of my story. They're not going to be part of my future. So why am I still involving them? And I think this kind of like phrase, somebody's not part of my story, they're not going to be in future chapters of my life, that really released me to say, okay, I'm gonna stop looking at their social media because they're just not part of what I'm writing right now. So that helped me somehow.
Okay, Hannah, thank you so much for today. Oh my gosh, this has been really helpful. My gosh, there's so much for me to unpack and think about after our chat here. Yeah, I've got a lot to think about. So I'm really grateful for this conversation. Um, for our listeners, we are dropping these every Tuesday. So you can come back and grab more encouragement, more tips, tricks, tools. We also have an online course, and it is very affordable. And we are so excited to see the amount of impact that this can have just to help people develop vision, help people pick up more tips, tools, and tricks for just enjoying their singleness as maybe you prepare for a relationship or maybe not. We have both in our community. So you can visit that at celebratingsingles.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Celebrating Singles. Thanks again, Hannah. We're so grateful for the topic today, and we hope you all have a great day.